Hello, and welcome to the Group 11 presentation. Group 11 consists of myself, Aaron Fawson, Preston Griffall, Jesse Spencer, and Daniel Kleiner. We decided to do our group project on Airbnb. A little bit about Airbnb. The values that they like to uphold is people-focused, connecting them with places and experiences for these safe, fun environments, all be able to connect them and build it up on their platform that they provide to the world. Airbnb history, they were formed in 2008 as Air Bed and Breakfast. Shortly after, they shortened their name in March 2009 to Airbnb. Early 2011, they had their millionth night booked. And then in early 2012, they had grown to such a base that they had offices open in Paris, Milan, Barcelona, Copenhagen, Moscow, Sao Paulo, San Francisco, London, Hamburg, and Berlin. They had grown into a worldwide organization. Airbnb users, we've got over 150 million users worldwide, worth $32 billion, and over 4 million listings available on their site, and 2 million guests staying at rentals on any given night. That's a little bit about Airbnb. Now a little on to what we've put together as our model and project overall.
Hi, I'm Preston. I'll be describing the entity relationship diagram here. So you can see that the diagram itself is based around 3 different entities: the user, review, and ratings entities. And from here, the user, it contains all of user information, so when they're making their profile, they'll be inputting their name, their gender, birth date, currency, where they currently live, and all of that will be tied into the user ID, which is also a part of that entity. From here you can see that the user entity is really the main area that everything, the review and the rating, are connected to. You can see that they're connected through these different relationships. The review entity is connected by the rights relationship. So one user can write many different reviews and can do many different ratings, which you can see through the cardinalities here. The one-to-many relationship from the user to each of the other entities. The rating entity over here is connected through the ranks relationship, and that includes 6 different attributes which are all rated on a number scale, from cleanliness, location, accuracy, communication, value, check-in, and then that's all brought in through the primary key of the rating ID. We'll go into a little bit more detail here with the review entity, because this is really kind of the interesting part of the ERD model. Because here, review, we broke that down into a supertype and a subtype, because there are 3 different types of reviews that can be made, but each review is only linked to one category. So once a guest or a host writes the review, it has to be connected through the review, but as you can see with the disjoint constraint, it can only be one of them. It can't be multiple subtypes. So it can either be a guest review, a property review, or a host review, but not 2 of those at the same time. And from the double lines here, from the review to the disjoint module, that means that there's total specialization. So that means that any review that's written has to be linked through one of those. It can't just be a review on its own. It has to be a review connected to the subtype. Here we'll take a look at the relational model and how all of those different entities and the attributes are then connected back through the actual tables once that's put into the database. So a relational model, we'll start from the top down. You can see that this top relation is the user relation, and that's the most important because all of the ratings and reviews are connected back through that relation through the user ID, which is its primary key. You can see through the lines here how the ratings and the review relation link back to that through which would be foreign keys in each of those. So the user relationship is the parent bringing together all of the other relations, where ratings, review, and then through the subtype and supertype, guest review, property review, and host review would then all be children connected to the user relation. And you can see as we work our way down to the review relation that the guest review, property review, and host review all draw their own, or all their IDs back to the review ID. And so whereas they are in subtypes, they actually all are bringing back the same user ID from the review, which then links them back to the user. So that in the end you can see who's making which reviews and which ratings based off of the user ID.
Okay, so we had two main queries within our database. Of course, those queries can be expounded upon, and we'll describe that in a moment. The first query was based on reviews, and we did all reviews. That way you can see every single review, whether they be guest, host, or even property reviews. And we've organized it in a way that makes so you can see right away if it's a guest or a host. Gives you the date that the reviews were on, and then we give the review text. And this allows the person, so when they see the text, if they want to continue on, look at the contact information, they can. For example, if it's a bad review, especially from an owner perspective, you'll want to know that. But this saves time by being able to say, oh, that's a good review, good. Or if this is a bad review, okay, now I need to do something. And that's why we ordered it the way we did. Several of the other types of reviews that queries that we can do on the reviews is specifically go for property, specifically go for guest, specifically go for host. We also can do it by specific names, especially if we're seeing a recurring guest or host. We can also do it by city, and then we can also do it by date. So within a given date range, or even after a specific date. All of these are possible within our database. The second query that we did was on ratings, which is pretty simple and straightforward. As was mentioned earlier, all the ratings are based on a 5-point scale. And so you can see that the way we did this was what we thought was logical, in that we want to see the name and contact information of the person first and then the ratings. This allows the person who's using the query to be able to quickly and succinctly put in the name and contact of the person's first, because the ratings, all we really care about when we're thinking about ratings is it good or not? And so that's just going to leave our brain anyway, so that's why it's in the back. And so with those two different query types, we can get a lot of information, and we believe that they're very successful in doing what they are required to do.
So hey, my name is Daniel, and I will introduce you to our physical model. As you can see here, there are tables: user 1 review, rating, the property review, the host review, and the guest review. And as you can see over here already, but I will go a little bit more into detail. All the metadata, like the variable characters and so on. So for our first table, the user 1 table, it's basic user information with the primary key of user ID. And it's a little bit short, small over here, but you can see there's sample data. So there's the user ID per se, the city, gender, description, all the customer data, his name, her name, the birth date, emails, so everything that's kind of basic information that's required to define a user. The next table is the rating table. Over here we have basic rating information with the primary key of rating ID, referencing to the user ID as a foreign key in this table. This rating system is defined with numbers, although like the SQL data is in the background. So most likely we have like a different interface in the user end that allows us to just rate a different property or stay at an Airbnb with like 5 stars. So on the user end, the numbers are pretty much limited to 5. The next table is the review table, and here we have like the primary key as review ID and a foreign key, again like referencing to the user ID of the user table. In this table, there's actually just the basic review information, not necessarily the review text. The review text or the specific reviews are in the next tables, for example, the property review. So that's a subtype. The previous table, the review table, the basic review table, is a supertype for those. And as you can see in the property review, we have like a specific host response that is, for example, like, we are glad you enjoyed your stay, and that's like just one subtype of 3 different subtypes. The next subtype would be the host review with a guest response, and the guest review with another host response. And the important thing about those tables is that you can just have one of those reviews and not like 2 or more.
A little bit about the future possibilities that Airbnb might be able to include with the database that we've shown that they have, and with their features that we didn't include as well. But something that they might be able to expand into is with the same structure that they have now, expanding that into the professional environment. So with professional buildings, you have companies who have these spaces that often don't use all of their space, that they can lease out for meetings or conferences, as well as space opportunities for like startup companies, as well as contracted employees. So if this a company, say, has an extra segment of the building that they just use for storage, or maybe they don't even use very often, if they were to clean that up and offer that on a platform that Airbnb were able to produce, they would be able to have an additional source of income for the company that would also provide opportunities for those who maybe don't have access to some of these conference rooms or different things, and it would just open up opportunities for contracted employees or startups and things like that, that maybe they need some space to use, that the company could then lease out for that purpose.
So, in conclusion, I'm just going to go over a few things, and that is about how we went about figuring out how to create this database model, how we went about trying to make it match certain things in Airbnb, and how we thought Airbnb did this. First off, we started by looking at the website as well as the mobile app, specifically with concerning the reviews and ratings, and trying to figure out how we could conceptualize putting that into an actual into tables and making that so we could query it as well. And then also something that we had to figure out was how to do the super type and the subtypes, not just on the ER diagrams, which was probably the easiest part to do, but actually within the model itself, within our database. I want to go over some scope limitations to our database. Due to the timing, the time of the project, as well as what's supposed to be part of the project, we didn't include a lot of features that are within Airbnb. For example, and this is not an all-inclusive list, we didn't include like the inbox, calendar, reservations, and transactional data. Just a brief overview of that, like the inbox has several different features, including names, obviously what they wrote, contact information, things like that. And then the calendar in my mind is actually one of the coolest things about Airbnb, is because it allows not only the owner to, or guest to see when reservations are, when available dates to reserve are. It also gives you what they project is the fair market value of the bookings of that day. So for example, if it's March 31st, you go down out all the way to let's say March 31st, 2019, it may say like for that specific area, a room per night is $35, and then it'll say like in June like 65. So I think that's pretty cool. And then also reservations. Reservations goes over both how much the person's paying, how long they're staying, when they actually booked, things of that nature. And I think that's important to realize that this project goes specifically over reviews, for which I think our database is very capable and acceptable. But we do have some scope limitations. We weren't trying to mimic the whole thing.